Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Welcome to another video. Today's video we're talking about Antonio Conte's very explosive interview, post-match interview that he gave after Tottenham drew 3-3 with Southampton on Saturday afternoon. Of course, it seemed like Tottenham were cruising towards 3 points. With 15 minutes to go, Spurs found themselves 3-1 up, seemingly heading towards another 3 points and maintaining a stronghold, or at least as strong a hold as they could do and can do at this moment in time on a top 4 position. But then it all crumbled, it all self-imploded, and Tottenham found themselves with only going away from that game with a point after Southampton battled back within the final quarter of an hour to get a point from that game and battle back to a 3-3 draw. Tottenham once again seen as bottling a lead. Nothing really new there. It happens time and time again for Spurs. And of course they've become very notorious for bottling it, if you like. And of course in that situation it definitely does seem like bottling it. You can argue the penalty might have been a bit controversial, but at the end of the day, Tottenham did drop points. Tottenham only came away with a point in that game, and that opens the door now for teams below them that have games in hand over Spurs, the likes of Newcastle, the likes of Brentford, Brighton, and of course Liverpool, to potentially close the gap, or even maybe in some cases overtake them in the top 4 race as it continues to heat up now that we're in the running for the end of the season. But the interesting part was obviously Conte's post-match interview. That's what really grabbed the headlines and took focus from anything and everything that pretty much happened this past weekend. Conte's interview was explosive. Conte's interview was, I guess you'd say, in his perspective, incredibly honest. Maybe a little bit too honest. Maybe he did go a little bit too far in talking about Spurs this season and what he is noticing and seeing in his players. And of course, Spurs as a club these past 20 odd years or so. It was very explosive. He went in hard, and it was very intriguing watch from a rival or neutral fan's perspective. And I guess some Tottenham fans may see it as they like the honesty because they sometimes see it themselves, or some Tottenham fans who might be maybe a little bit deluded, maybe a little bit more on the positive side of things, may have seen it as a bit of an unnecessary sort of interview to give, and he probably should have been a bit more easier, shall we say, on maybe some of the players or the club itself, and maybe talked about it behind closed doors. I'm not really sure which way sometimes is best to go about that kind of stuff. But like I say, it made for incredible viewing if you haven't already seen it. We're going to be talking about this interview. We're going to be talking about Tottenham as a whole again. I know that we've talked about Tottenham a lot these past few weeks alone, but of course this is another kind of element to this Tottenham story of this current campaign. Talking about the interview, talking about Tottenham, talking about where they go from here. Obviously, we're heading into the international break now. It'll be interesting to see if anything does occur in the aftermath of this interview. But before we go any further, I would like to remind you all to please like the video and also subscribe if you're new. Both things are always and forever greatly appreciated. But for now, let's talk Tottenham yet again. Right. So, first and foremost, shall we just reiterate again that in order for Antonio Conte to succeed at this club, specific details, specific requirements would have had to have been met to the fullest of capacity. We knew that going into Conte's reign as manager with Tottenham. We knew that obviously Conte was meant to be the manager when Nuno Espirito Santo took over, but obviously that wasn't to happen because obviously he didn't see Tottenham fitting his requirements, fitting his kind of specification, if you like, as to how to make this team, this club, successful. Then, of course, things went pear-shaped and completely wrong with Nuno. So they turned back to Conte. And it seems that Levy made 1,000,001 different promises to Conte's requirements and said that he will get them. And that hasn't been fulfilled. Conte's had to work with alternatives, it seems. Conte's had to work with players that he didn't really want to bring in, but had to bring in some sort of level of player that was seen, I guess, as maybe not too similar, but as an alternative to the kind of plan A list of players that he wanted. From there, we knew it weren't going to end well. We knew that obviously if Spurs are going to meet every single one of his demands, give him whatever he wanted, we knew that there was potential there for Conte to succeed. Because let's face it, with the right specification, with the right demands, he can definitely make that happen. At Tottenham, that was never going to happen. Not just because of the club Tottenham are, but also because of their ownership situation. They're to blame on this as well, as we know. Conte, though, as I'll go on to say, cannot take none of the blame. Even though he went into bat completely for himself with his post-match interview, he is not entirely blameless on this. But yeah, like a lot of us were sat there saying that this has the recipe for disaster. It could work out, but it's going to take a lot of work from Tottenham's side to, of course, make Conte happy and to keep the 1,000,001 different promises that they probably did make to him upon taking the job. Let's face it, domestically, Conte, very much amazing in terms of everything that he's done for Chelsea and Inter Milan specifically. Domestically, a great domestic manager. Not so great in Europe, but like I say, domestically, very, very good. A very long and illustrious resume. But obviously, that's when he's allowed to get in the players that he wanted. When he's allowed to go out there and he's allowed to bring in anyone and everyone that he's allowed to bring in. That, of course, works. Doesn't work when, obviously, he has to make compromises, plan Bs, that kind of thing. He's got plan A, and plan A has to work down to the finest detail in order to succeed. And it hasn't. And we've seen in recent weeks, especially this campaign, that he's been very up and down. He's been very up and down. Like, whatever you can read from his interviews, very up and down. When Tottenham win, it's all, I love this club, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. The players are great here. The players are starting to build. And then when they go and throw it away the week after with a defeat, it's always like, they didn't do what I asked, they didn't do this, they didn't do that. I can't coach that. They've got to learn it. So stuff like that. Just stuff like that. And obviously this weekend it all came to a head. It all boiled over. And it's convenient as well, like I say, because obviously this is the international break now. We go into the international break. There's a 2-week gap now between now and the next match day. And it'll be very interesting to see if Conte still remains in the job after this interview, because he went into bat for himself. He was trying to obviously protect not just his career in terms of his history and obviously in terms of what he's already managed to achieve in the game as a manager, but he also went in to protect his future in the game as well, in terms of hopefully getting a new club, saying, this isn't me, this is not on me, this is the players, this is the club that Spurs are, this is the club that Spurs have been the past 20 odd years or so under this ownership. This is nothing to do with me. I tried my best, but I haven't been given the right tools for the job. I've not been given this, I've not been given that. The players aren't listening to me. This is nothing to do with me. And when you look at some of the quotes that he said, it is obvious that that is what the message is. Some of the quotes here, I'll read through. One of them is, the problem is we have shown we are not a team. We are 11 players. I see selfish players. I see players that don't want to help each other, don't play with heart. It is the same every season, no matter who the manager is. They're used to it here. Don't play for something important. They don't want to play under pressure. They don't want to play under stress. Tottenham's story is this: 20 years there is the owner, and they never won something But why? The fault is only for the club or for every manager that stays here. I have seen the managers that Tottenham have had on the bench. You risk to disrupt the figure of the manager and to protect the other situation in every moment. Until now, I tried to hide the situation, but now, no, because I repeat, I don't want to see what I've seen today because this is unacceptable and also unacceptable for the fans. So basically, like I say, he is going into bat for himself there. He is blaming everybody else but himself. I think he has to take some of the blame. I think some of the decisions in terms of team selections and maybe substitutions at times will be wrong. Obviously, that's on him. But he's calling it out. And it's kind of refreshing in a way to see a manager do that. It doesn't normally happen. Normally you get managers that are kind of yes men. For example, would you expect Mauricio Pochettino to have come out and did this? No. He spent 3 transfer windows with basically the same squad and in the end got sacked because his team went stale and his team was kind of predictable. He then got the sack from Tottenham. He was never really going to come out and start questioning the ownership, and he was never going to come out and go, well, they didn't give me this and they didn't give me that. And I was close. I got this team to a Champions League final and I got this team to second in the league, and we could have gone on further had the right investment been made during those seasons. He wouldn't do that. He's a yes man. Conte definitely isn't. We knew this would have the recipes for disaster, like I say. We knew that it was like a ticking time bomb. We knew that Conte was going to explode should he not be given the specific requirements that he wanted in order to make change at this football club. And it's blown up. And the people that are very happy about this and probably are sat there saying, I told you so, are Chelsea fans. Because Chelsea fans probably experienced this firsthand when obviously Conte was there at their club. Yes, he may have got them a bit of success, but once that success dried up, once he wasn't given the right tools to go on and build on that success, it all came crashing down. So Chelsea fans saw it firsthand. Chelsea fans were sat there saying, are saying there right now, saying, I told you so. Chelsea fans were saying at the beginning of this appointment, he may be a good manager domestically, but you're going to have to give him everything and anything that he needs. And Tottenham haven't done that. And look, the ticking time bomb has now exploded. And he exploded very, very immensely. And it's been incredible to watch Spurs this season. You've got Harry Kane dragging them through to a top 4 charge. You've got the rest of the team that are underperforming, average. A few injuries here and there I get, but poor. Summer signings not hitting expectation. Richarlison, 50 to 60 million pounds worth of what? A chicken dance occasionally for when he scores a goal in the League Cup, and for goals where he's offside and he takes his shirt off still. That's the highlight. That's the highlight of his career at Tottenham. It's just been a complete shambles, and it needs all ripping out, starting again, new manager coming in, another rebuild at Tottenham. It just needs all ripping out, and Harry Kane needs to leave for the good of his career if he wants to at least say that he will win something come the end of his career, and not just multiple goal scoring records, not just becoming Tottenham's all-time Premier League goal scorer or whatever it may be. Or, you know, maybe going on to eventually break Alan Shearer's goal scoring record in the Premier League. He needs to leave this summer. This is his last chance to jump ship and maybe go on and win something big or something at all away from this Tottenham side that is basically just absolutely crumbled now. Absolutely crumbled. We've said it. They're done. Where do you turn to from here without having to go back to Pochettino, like we said? I still think Simeone's in with a shout, and that could be another interesting development in the history of the Tottenham there. But Conte just went in for himself, calling out the players, calling out how there's no cohesion, there's just a bunch of individuals, calling out the club how every manager comes to try and succeed. They see it as a bit of a challenge, and yet they don't succeed because the club is just the way that the club is. They're comfortable playing with no pressure. They're comfortable with just a top four finish, it seems. They're not comfortable in trying to pursue anything higher than that. No trophies, no league titles. They're comfortable with just a top four finish, which, again, Tottenham fans might find refreshing on calling out the club in that regard. But it'll be interesting to see how that with how that goes down, obviously behind the scenes and everything. And then he goes on to say that regardless of who the manager is, this is the history of the Tottenham for the past 20 years. And how the club damages the reputation and the possible future career of every manager that's basically been there in order to protect themselves, protect the club, protect the board, protect the ownership and everything else in between. And like I say, it made for very intriguing viewing. Interesting that it's all come about now. Obviously, I think the only reason it's come about now is because the international break's here. And Conte wants to get fired. He's done now. He's done and dusted. He's mentally checked out. He wants to get fired. He wants Tottenham to sack him in order to get, obviously, the compensation, the pay, and everything else that goes along with that before the end of the campaign, before his contract officially does run out. So it'll be interesting to see there if Tottenham actually do bite and they get rid of him, because top four means more and will obviously mean more money, or whether they just sack him, get rid of him, hope for the best with top four in terms of who they bring in as the possible interim manager, or maybe even full-time manager, depending on how quickly they can tie things up. And just see how things go from there. But this was an incredible part of this Tottenham story, this campaign. I want to know, but these are just the thoughts, comments, opinions, predictions, feelings of this guy. I want to know what you guys think on this absolutely mad and bizarre post-match interview. What do you guys think? What do you make of the comments that were made? What do you make of Conte trying to protect himself, trying to obviously go forward? What do you make of Tottenham's season, Conte's time at Tottenham, and the future of both Conte and Tottenham? I'd love to know what you guys think, feel, what your thoughts, comments, opinions, predictions, feelings, whatever you want to call it, down below in the comment section, because I'm sure they'll all make for interesting reading. Otherwise, hit the like button on the way up, enjoy the video, subscribe if you're new, want to see more content like this. Both things are always and forever greatly appreciated. And as always, thank you all so much for watching and listening. I've been Fletch, this has been another Fletch Talks video, and I'll see you all again soon in another video.